Our topic today is called Affirmations and Denials in Treatment, another word for affirmative prayer. Denials in this instance are a spiritual tool used in prayer for dissolving a belief in the absence of God or good. In The Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes writes, affirmations and denials are for the purpose of vitalizing faith, for the purpose of converting thought to a belief in things spiritual. The foundation for correct mental treatment is perfect God, perfect man, perfect being. Thought must be organized to fit this premise, and conclusions must be built on this premise. We must keep our faith vital if we hope to successfully treat for ourselves or others. Let us remind ourselves that the wisdom of Spirit is moving through us as we speak this truth. I am a willing guardian and steward of the one eternal light of Spirit. Therefore, my prayers are declarations of spiritual truth that set me free, lead to greater happiness and fulfillment, and help to create a world that works for everyone.
So the theme for this month is spiritual mind treatment reform. And for those of you who are brand new to this teaching, spiritual mind treatment is our term for affirmative prayer. So whenever you hear spiritual mind treatment, think affirmative prayer. And Ernest Holmes, when he came up with that term, approached it from an affirmative and a scientific way. He looked at it as a way in which we can literally clean our consciousness of all of the beliefs that in any way inhibit, delay, deny, or obstruct the expression of our true nature, our wholeness, our completeness, and our perfection as individualized expressions of the Most High. So today, the aspect of spiritual mind treatment that we're going to be focusing on is denials and affirmations. Many of us have heard affirmations before. I mean, it's pretty prevalent in this culture. However, the whole idea of denials in our teaching is not the same as denials that are used in the 12-step programs. It's a very different concept. This concept is a denial of false beliefs, denial of the power of false beliefs. So keep that in mind as we move through this. But where I wanted to start with you is, and I was inspired by what we're doing in our metaphysical Bible class, is to start with you with one of the parables. And to me, this parable is a cornerstone for helping us understand the workings of the mind. And Jesus was not only a master teacher of spirituality, he was a master teacher of mental science. He understood how the mind worked and how the spirit that we are can use that tool to co-create heaven on earth. So let me read the parable for you. This is a newer version of it, but it's still the same teaching. So it says, listen. A farmer went out to plant some seeds as he scattered them across his field. Some seeds fell on a footpath, and the birds came and ate them. Other seeds fell on shallow soil with underlying rock. The seeds sprouted quickly because the soil was shallow, but the plants soon wilted under the hot sun, and since they didn't have deep roots, they died. Other seeds fell among thorns that grew up and choked out the tender plants. Still other seeds fell on fertile soil, and they produced a crop that was 30, 60, and even 100 times as much as had been planted. Anyone with ears to hear should listen and understand. So parables, just a little background on parables for those who aren't part of our class. Parables were a method used, a storytelling method used by not only Jesus, but it's been used by other spiritual masters and other spiritual traditions that's full of symbolism, and it reaches the subconscious mind because the subconscious mind understands symbols. And
Poetry.
sometimes when we talk too literally, even though our conscious mind gets it, our subconscious mind is just not catching the truth of it. So parable is a very powerful tool to help transform whatever is not working, whatever is not serving us in our subconscious mind. And not only that, but remember, he designed it for his followers. His followers were not only farmers, but they were merchants and businessmen of that time. And so when he used parables, he used symbology that spoke to them. And so when we look at this, then these parables then are this particular parable, I think, is a beautiful, perfect foundation for a deeper understanding of the power of this tool called spiritual mind treatment that we use. Because what it does is it shows us how it cleans and cleanses our subconscious mind to make it more receptive to the seeds of truth that are continuously being broadcast in the mind of the infinite, universal, the universal mind of God. And therefore, our lives are transformed because these beautiful ideas of truth that are being broadcast in the mind of God are things that are uplifting, that are good for us, that remind us of the magnificence of who we are, our spiritual nature, and our creative solutions to whatever is going on. It's the guidance that guides us in the right direction, helps us make good decisions. And then this idea called denials, followed by affirmations, is an aspect of spiritual mind treatment that we use to help clear away all of the doubt, the fear, the resistance to our good. And I'm reminded again of something that Reverend Judy said last week that I think it's just it's good to readdress these things. That it's important, it's helpful, let's say, to equate God with the word good. So God is good, and that good is something that we all ought to have. It's our birthright. And so what we're going to be looking at is that the only thing that's between our good and where we are now is the idea of absence, the idea that there is an absence of good. So those are the ideas that we're sweeping away, the negative thoughts and ideas. So let's get back to the parable. The farmer. What does the farmer mean? Okay, the farmer stands for the divine. We could think of it as the divine in us, the universal divine, which is one and the same. But that presence that is broadcasting the seeds. And you know, back in the times when Jesus lived, they didn't have all the big equipment. The farmer had a sack with seeds in it, and he just broadcast the seed. He just threw it, so it went every which way. It went on the fertilized field, but it also went on the footpath, and it went in the areas where the thorns were growing, and so on. So this is a beautiful analogy of consciousness. It teaches us about states of consciousness. So there's the footpath consciousness, I'll call it, the footpath consciousness. So when we throw a seed on a hard-packed footpath, it's not going to likely root very easily. And often it's just out there, it's bare, and the seed and the birds can just come along and pick it up and pull it apart. Footpath consciousness is when is the cynic, the dogmatist, the person who is closed-minded, who refuses new ideas, who if they hear a spiritual truth, say, well, I've already heard that. There's no attempt to really integrate it and put it in practice in their lives. So this footpath consciousness then is not something we have to be stuck with. If we recognize, ooh, there's a little bit of that in me, that's okay. You can make a new choice. You can choose to open your heart, just like we did at the beginning of the service. Open your heart, open your mind to that which is new and that which serves you in clearing away those false beliefs that get in the way of you being receptive to new ideas and to higher ideas and to guidance, inner guidance. So that's the footpath consciousness. The next is the shallow soil consciousness. So when the seed falls on the shallow soil that has an underlying rocky bed, the rocky bed has not been dug up and removed, the seeds just grow, or these roots just grow in a very shallow way. As a result, when the sun comes out and it's very, very hot without deep roots, what happens?
Burns.
It burns. It wilts and it burns. So this is the consciousness of the extreme idealist, and we want idealists. I consider myself an idealist. We want idealists who have higher visions, but it has to be countered with deep spiritual roots so that we can look beyond the circumstances that surround us, that look anything other than the ideal, and know that things are unfolding perfectly and that we still keep our minds on our highest vision, even in the midst of things seeming to fall apart. It strengthens, it's about a strong rootedness in knowing mental causation, that our thoughts cause our reality, that our beliefs, actually even more so, our deep rooted beliefs in our subconscious mind cause our reality. And so we know that our work is not only to hold the higher vision of our lives and for the planet, but also to do our inner work, to continue to pull out the weeds in consciousness and get the rocks out of the way. So that's the shallow soil consciousness. The next kind of consciousness is the thorny consciousness. And this kind of consciousness is one in which seeds are planted. However, because the weeding is not being done, thorny seeds, which are the fruits of our false beliefs that don't serve us. And those false beliefs, again, are anything unlike the truth of who we are. Knowing that all there is one life, one presence, one source, one power, which we can call God or Spirit, the Great Spirit, or the all that is, and that it is good and that we are of that our nature is the same as that. That is the truth that we want to continue to plant. But anything that is unlike that, thinking there's an absence of good or an absence of the presence anywhere, those are the thorny plants that can choke out all of our good plantings. And so what do we do about that? Again, we have a choice. If we see that in our own lives, if we see our lives full of thorny plants, the fruits of false beliefs, then we can say, okay, so there's some false beliefs I need to take care of here. There's some people, I thought there were people trying to get in. And so anyway, what's called for here is spiritual practice, daily spiritual practice, and not only our hour or so, or 20 minutes or whatever it is that we spend in meditation and prayer, it's also moment by moment awareness of what is going through our minds. So that thought by thought, okay, so a negative thought arises. Great, it's an opportunity. I can look at it, I can say it has no power over me, and I can turn myself in another direction. I can continue to plant seeds of truth. So, thorny consciousness. And the final consciousness in this parable is the fertile soil. The fertile soil isn't just a one time and done. Does everybody get that? Because we live in the culture that we do, and we're bombarded with what we call human race consciousness. Race consciousness, what Ernest Holmes called it, or collective consciousness. There's the media, and there's the internet, and there's what happens on our cell phones, and all that kind of thing. So it is important that we continue the process of mental cleaning, moment by moment, and day by day, thought by thought. That's how we maintain the fertile soil that's receptive to the seeds in the minds of the Most High that are coming our way, that are being broadcast, that we can pick up on. So, everybody with me?
Yes.
Cool stuff, isn't it? I know, I love it. I love to keep readdressing it and looking at it and applying it to my own life. So, again, we start with the proposition in spiritual mind treatment that the nature of God, which is the nature of us, is perfect harmony, whole, perfect, complete. And Ernest Holmes says perfect God, perfect man, perfect being. If we want to be more politically correct, perfect God, I usually say to myself, perfect human, perfect being. And it just reminds me of that underneath all of the thorns and the rocks and all of that seems to be showing up in our lives, and is the perfection, the wholeness, the beauty, the grace, the magnificence of the divine itself as us. And that's one of the things I love about this teaching is we realize that we are born of original blessing, not sin. We're born of original blessing. We are the light of the divine itself, as pure as the white driven snow, as pure as you can imagine, an innocent baby, as pure as an innocent baby. And so our job is to maintain that with mental cleansing, right? Okay. So spiritual mind treatment begins with that premise of our innate spiritual wholeness and perfection and conforms all of the thoughts around that. So again, when Emma says so beautifully, Emma Curtis Hopkins says so beautifully that between you and your good, which belongs to you and which you ought to have, is the idea of the absence of good. She is talking about those ideas of the absence of good are what in our culture we call negative thoughts. Negative thoughts. Negative thoughts, what do they tell us? They tell us we don't have our good, right? And remember that we are the masters of our minds, so we don't have to believe a thought when it comes up. If it doesn't feel good, then chances are it is not serving you. And so that's what we want to take care of. So denial. I like to think of denial as a garden tool. Anybody use garden tools? I know there's a garden tool called a weeder, that has a little hook on it, and you can use it to just take out the weeds. If we can think of denial as the ultimate weeder of our garden, that's what it is. So when we start using affirmative prayer and talking about God is all there is, and I am the life of God individualized, I'm perfect, whole, and complete, and there's a little thought that goes, yeah, right. No way. Or, yeah, but, well, what about all this other stuff that's going on in my life? When we feel that resistance coming up, that doubt, that fear, this is the perfect time for a denial. Ernest Holmes and Emma Curtis Hopkins talk about using denial to clear the path, clear the way, so that the affirmations that we plant can take root and go deeply. As long as those little thoughts, those beliefs are hanging around there, it is difficult for the rooting to take place. So here's some example, and then we always want to follow the denial with an affirmation, right? So let me give you some examples, because I know when you have clear examples, it helps. So, okay, so you're going along, you're stating the truth, you're saying that God is all there is, and I'm that life, I am whole, perfect, and complete. And then a thought comes up, I feel afraid that I'll fail and lose the love of others. Okay, so that thought comes up. So what do you do with it? You say, this is not the truth. This is not the truth about me. Fear has no power over me. It is based on a false belief that has no truth in it whatsoever. That's a denial. And then we can replace it by saying there is no lack in the mind of God. God is the fullness of all the good that I could ever desire, and it's right here where I am as my very own being. So do you see how we went from denying it to denying the falsehood and claiming the truth as ours? Okay, so another one. You start speaking the truth of who you are, what God is, who you are, and then you hear a no way. Okay, so what is that? That's doubt. That's a thought of doubt of some kind. So doubt has no power over me. Doubt out, faith in its place. Everybody remember that one? Mm-hmm. Doubt out, faith in its place. Yeah. How about, okay, yeah buts. Yeah buts are the ultimate, right? We can hear the yeah buts. Yeah, but look what's going on in my life right now. How can this be true? This is not true. Look what's going on in my life. That's when we start using our five senses to look at the circumstances, not realizing that that there is a mental cause that we can set in motion that can change all that. Because all of that, the circumstances were caused by thought forms to begin with. And very innocently. It's not like we wanted that to happen, but we've been caught up in the illusion of this culture that we live in, and it's important for us to rise above it, to step above it, and to realize that the effects that are in our lives right now can be changed by changing our thinking and then aligning our actions with that higher way of being. So instead, when yeah, but comes up, you can say, there is no absence of, maybe it has to do with wisdom, yeah, but I'm not wise enough to solve my problem or something like that. There is no absence of wisdom anywhere in the mind of God, and I am fully, completely connected to that universal mind, which is all wisdom, all intelligence. So my wisdom comes straight from the mind of God, and therefore I impart wisdom wherever I am. So that's the way we talk to ourselves. It's having a conversation with ourselves about truth. It's denying those false beliefs, and then it's standing in our truth. And I was thinking about, as I was writing this, about last week. How many of you were at the Fear to Faith workshop last week? Oh, okay. Well, what we did is we learned the New Thought Macarena. Everybody remember that? We did a whole process where we looked at what we didn't like that was going on in our lives and what we wish would happen, and then our fear of what might happen, which usually is, oh my gosh, it's just going to get worse, or it's going to stay the same, it'll never change, whatever that is. And then we look for the underlying belief, one word that describes the belief, and a word that describes our reaction to that belief, the way we show up or behave in reaction to that belief. And so my particular one, I don't mind sharing it, had to do with the idea of powerlessness. And so my Macarena dance was, I released the belief in powerlessness, I released the need to control. I'm grateful God is the power I am. I did it for 70 times for 7 days. Anybody else do your full 70 times 7? Dwayne did. I know Jenny did. Yeah. Yay. Yeah. These processes are powerful. The New Thought Macarena. Do you like that? I mean, isn't that
Yeah.
cool? To sweep out all those patterns in our consciousness. And what's so beautiful, I remember I had been doing this for a while, and one time, and when you're doing something 70 times, all at one time, it suddenly dawned on me that, oh my gosh, it's the science of mind symbol that's taking place. I am sweeping out that whole middle section of the subconscious mind, and I am inviting the seed thoughts in the mind of God into my heart and into my life. So I release the belief in powerlessness. I release the need to control. See, I'm sweeping out my subconscious mind. I'm grateful God is the power that I am. I'm bringing it right into my heart, into my subconscious mind. Beautiful, huh?
Beautiful.
All right. Let's everybody try it. I know it's not yours, but stand up and let's just try it, because it's left arm, right arm, and then you go straight up in a V, and you look up, and you literally imagine yourself bringing that quality of the divine down into your heart. So we're going to do powerlessness, control, and grateful God is okay. So I'll do it this way so everybody we're all doing it the same way, okay? I release the belief in powerlessness. I release the need to control. I'm grateful God is the power I am. One more time. I release the belief in powerlessness. I release the need to control. I'm grateful God is the power I am. I release the belief in powerlessness. I release the need to control. I'm grateful God is the power I am. All right, so if there's anybody that wants to learn about the process, speak with me, and I can be sure that you get a form to fill out. And the other way to do it is if you take our Foundations class. Our Foundations class has the Fear to Faith process in week number 5, I believe. We do that on that particular night. So it's powerful. All of these tools, and think about it, what you were just doing is a spiritual mind treatment. We just did a very short spiritual mind treatment, but the ultimate of spiritual mind treatments is not about the effects that we want to create. It's about the changes we want to make inside, because as we clean and clear and set up our consciousness to be that fertile soil of the Most High, then we are natural places in which the ideas of the Most High, the guidance, take root, grow deeply, and produce beautiful fruit. So I am so grateful for this knowing, and I invite us to all say together, and so it is. Amen.